All right. So, here is the news, guys. Here's some important gaming news. I saw this today and I was like, hold up, wait a minute. I gotta discuss this with you all. So, here's what's going on. Pilestedt is the CEO of Arrowhead Games. And Arrowhead Games is the great developer that we love for Helldivers 2. Easily game of the year, except for the whole Sony debacle. But besides that, the Sony PlayStation Network debacle, the game itself is game of the year. It's a game that we play a lot. We played a lot in this channel. This community plays a lot of. I've covered a lot on our YouTube channel as well. And good news and bad news the entire time. And lots and lots of good news. But of course, that huge Sony debacle. So today, we had some news. Pilestedt has decided to step down as CEO of Arrowhead Games. Now, we're going to discuss what happened, why. I'm going to give you some ideas of what I think happened. And also, we're going to figure out together if this is a good or middling or bad thing. So let's see what happens. So Pilestedt's statement is simple. Hey, everyone, big update. I decided to hire Shams Jorjani as the new CEO of Arrowhead GS. We go way back, and I wouldn't trust the business in any other hands than his. And he comes with an impressive resume and a love for games. But what about my involvement in Helldivers 2? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm taking the role of Chief Creative Officer, which means I will spend more time with the team and 100% of my focus on the games and community. So I think this is very interesting news. I think this is not fully bad news, but it's also not fully good news. And I know a lot of people are worried about it. A lot of people, of course, are very supportive of Pilestedt. If you read the comments here, we're going to read a couple of them. Here's like the top most ranked one. When you lower your position, I think, which it is going from CEO to CCO. To be more involved in your game, that speaks volumes. Everyone's very supportive. Pilestedt's been a great CEO. He's been a great creative director. And I think already we can just straight up say that Pilestedt moving to a job that he wants to do, as in be the creative voice of the company and focus on things like the balance and creating cool guns and new mission types and stuff that he's talked about over the past few months and he just doesn't have time for anymore. I think that is going to be very good for Pilestedt. I think this is extremely much good news for Pilestedt. I think that when he was CEO for this company, they made Helldivers 1, which was not a very large game. It was a great game. It was more than they expected, but it wasn't like, that large. And then after 8 years of development, or sorry, 6, is it 8 or, yeah, 6 or 8 years of development, Helldivers 2 came out. And they were expecting like 10,000 to 40,000 concurrent players at launch. And it ended up being 450,000 concurrent players at launch. And so he was swamped. And now I work in business. I am CEO of my own company. So I know how it goes. As a CEO, you are basically just doing a whole bunch of like heavy lifting work. All kinds of mundane stuff that isn't fun. You're not doing like all the creative stuff the entire time. And it's a lot of like repetitious, really, really dragging down work. And Pilestedt, we've seen his passion for the community. He comments on like every single post. He helps out other game devs. He has talked to other indie game devs that we've seen and everything like that. And he has a very strong creative voice. I don't think he ever wanted this level of success in terms of the level of work. Obviously, he's very proud of the game and he loves, having the ability to be successful as a game company. But it also came with a lot more work on the, business side of things that I think he was not ready for. So I think that's why he's doing this. And on that level, as a CEO myself of my own company, I totally get it. I wish I could do the same. So absolutely, he's probably had to work his entire ass off, especially the past month or so with the entire debacle with PSN. And the PSN debacle, by the way, to this day is not fully solved. Sony is still dragging their feet on giving back access to the 177 countries and regions that cannot buy Helldivers 2. That is over like Oh my God, including China and various parts of South Asia and everything like that. I mean, it's probably well over 1 billion people that have no access to this game. And it's something that he's been making posts about on the Discord and everything like that, saying he's working with Sony, he's trying to get it back, he has not forgotten, and I don't expect that to ever happen. I don't think he'll ever forget. He's going to try his best. But the other problem is, I think this situation with Sony has also shown him that he really doesn't want to be the CEO of this company. Because as CEO, he has to do what we all consider as creative people dirty shit, where he has to, like, interact with Sony, fight essentially a publisher, and do like all these different types of things, as opposed to doing the fun stuff of creating cool things for his game. That's what he wants to do. And so, like I said, on that note, I think Pilestedt is extremely happy on his end. And I guess he knows Jorjani. The problem is, and here's the negative side. So he feels comfortable with Jorjani. And hopefully, if they're this close, Jorjani will be an okay, CEO for the company. However, here is the downside. And yes, Darkshade brought it up, and I'm going to bring it up right now. Jorjani, I know very well. Not, personally, obviously, but I mean, as a person who has been in the gaming company, he used to be the chief executive officer of a little-known company known as Paradox Interactive. So let's look up Jorjani and let's see the games that he's been head of for a while now. Find this? Here, maybe it's on Bloomberg. There we go. Here we go. Bloomberg will probably be able to give it to us, but they might have it under paywall. Yeah, Bloomberg loves their paywalls. This is why journalism is dead, guys. By the way, this is why journalism is dead. You cannot read any, thing about a person, or, you look at any articles from Bloomberg, which is a, very respected source, but they're all behind paywall. Oh my God, it drives me bananas. It drives me bananas. Okay, let's, I guess, see Moby Games. Maybe Moby Games will have some details. Okay, here we go. So, this gives us a little bit of detail. So, he was directly involved from everything from Xenonauts 2 to Cities Skylines 1, which means he was definitely involved in the contributions and the lead up to Cities Skylines 2. This is the problem. Cities Skylines 2 is an absolute travesty of a game. These games, while, Crusader Kings 2 is really good, Planetfall is really good, Crusader Kings 3 is really good, these are good games. But the downside is that all of these games that he's been CEO of and Chief Business Development Officer of, they have terrible issues with microtransactions. They have terrible issues with DLCs. Their monetization is absolutely bananas. So this is why I am worried for how he is going to work with now Arrowhead Games. We love Helldivers 2 because it's priced correctly, because it's not too expensive, because it is very generous with how much premium currency it gives us. It doesn't hammer us with microtransactions. It doesn't do any of those things, right? That's why this game is so good and so successful. However, if the CEO changes to someone who has a terrible track record by working with Paradox Interactive, who has done many negative things in these extremely similar circumstances with live service games and so on, that's a worry, and that is something all of us should be worried about. I'm not saying that this is like doom and gloom, but I am saying that every single person who cares about Helldivers 2 should keep their eyes open. That's all I'm saying. Keep your eyes open if you care about this game, because if you don't hold people like this to account, they could run away with it and try to put their indelible negative mark on an otherwise wonderful game. We've already seen this with Sony. Publishers already tried to ruin the game. It could very well be a situation where now the new CEO could screw over the game as well. Now, I think that Pilestedt will... I mean, he's obviously keeping up... This is, by the way, a picture of Jorjani. I don't know why I was pointing at this. Pilestedt is a very much... will have a strong creative voice in the company still. But I don't know how much say and sway he'll have for, if Jorjani decides to put, more of a stringent battle pass, more of an exploitive set of microtransactions in the game. I mean, Pilestedt will definitely not like it, but I don't know if he'll have the power to fight it because he is lowering his own role. Hopefully, that will not be an issue. Hopefully, if Shams Jorjani is this close to Johan Pilestedt, everything will be fine. But I just wanted to give you guys the full information. Yeah, let's see what this tells us. This might give us some more information. This is from gamesindustry.biz. Pilestedt will remain as Chief Creative Officer and Chairman. The move follows the smash hit success of Helldivers 2, which sold 12 million copies since it launched on PS5 and PC in February. Jorjani is a games business veteran and spent 12 years in senior leadership roles at Paradox Interactive, which is why I'm worried, because Paradox does not have the best track record. They make very good games, but they have some very, very negative things as well, which should worry you guys. It worries me. He also served as chairman of indie publisher Hooded Horse, and acts as a senior advisor for various game businesses. No list of these, so I'm not sure if these are good things or bad things. I can try to look into that later. Speaking to gamesindustry.biz, Pilestedt explains that hiring a dedicated CEO will give him more time to focus on his love for game creation, while giving the company the structure and leadership it needs. This is also true because Pilestedt is a very creative person. And, he's done a lot for the creative process of the game, a lot of the visual design of the game, a lot of the thematic design of the game. This is due to the amazing Arrowhead team and very much Johan Pilestedt himself. One of the reasons this game has been bleeding players is not only because of the Sony debacle. The Sony debacle is by far the big issue that, I still haven't played Helldivers 2 since that started, because I'm waiting for the 177 countries to get their access back fully to the game. Until Sony does that, I will not be changing my negative review into a positive review, and I urge you guys to do the same. This is the only thing Sony cares about and listens to, so keep the pressure on, by the way. Regardless, he is not a CEO type of material for a huge games process like this. And he's been quite vocal about saying that he's not like the most organized person, and he's not the most, business-minded person, and so on. So having this this job separated out between the chief creative officer and the CEO is in that way probably a good thing. And like I was saying, even before the Sony debacle, the game was bleeding players because we've had things like balance issues. We've had things like, people already making the moans and groans about not having enough creative modes, or different ways to play, or different mission types, or so on, for the actual game itself, for Helldivers 2. And it is a very great game, but it can be a little repetitive. I'm okay with that because I haven't played particularly long. I've only played about 35 hours, which is a good amount of time. But it is definitely not like, I know people like Darkshade. How much Helldivers have you played? I know people that have played like 150 hours plus of Helldivers 2. And I can imagine if I played 5 times the amount of Helldivers 2, I might get a little feel repetitious, too repetitious as well. So, yeah, that could be, Pilestedt being so busy might be one of the reasons for this. So this could help Helldivers in that way. And let's see what the rest of the statement is. I've been thinking about the journey ahead for Arrowhead and the future games we're going to be making. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So because Arrowhead has made so much money, they're probably going to start working on other games. So it seems like this is definitely the case, and having him be free to make those other games is also going to be very, very important. Okay, future games we're going to be making and running the organization beyond the 120 or so developers we have currently, he tells us. I realize that running an organization of over 100 people to however large it is going to get means I will have to choose between deepening my love for game creation or the business track. This is true. This is very, very true. Over the past year, going to launch of Helldivers 2, I've been pulled more towards the business side of things and not able to focus much on the creative side. That made me realize I needed to make some harder decisions, both for the success of the business, but also myself. So I reached out to Shams. We had a lunch and I asked him that if I was to reconsider running Arrowhead for the next decade, and I needed to hire a new CEO, would he be interested? After some contemplation and deep anxiety on how things are going to pan out, I finally came to the proper conclusion that I'm going to have to follow my heart. It's not only right for me, but also right for the organization. Having a reluctant CEO is not something that'll turn out well, I think. This is true. This is very, very true. Actually, completely true. Jorjani adds to this conversation. This is our first words from him, by the way. I've not really heard from Jorjani himself in this instance, so let's see. When you're talking to creatives like Johan, it's not like he wants to retire. Helldivers 2 is not the highlight of his career. Hopefully, it's the 4th best game he ever makes. So the question is, how do we set Johan up and the team up to get to that in a more consistent manner rather than skill plus luck plus happenstance, all the things that led us here. Okay, this is true. These are good words from Jorjani so far. These are good words from Jorjani. This is smart. Okay, this is good. But words are only words. But let's see. What I'll be bringing to the table is organization and leadership. What I did at Paradox, where I joined as the 23rd person and then helped grow the company into the behemoth that it was about organization, leadership, and business focus. It's a lot about the frankly boring business administration stuff that was a necessary part of running a company, which is hard to do when you're also juggling the chairman's hat and the creative director's hat, and also being the one who is in the trenches doing a lot of the designing that Johan has been doing over the years. Bethesda is Todd Howard, Kojima Productions is Kojima, Remedy is Sam Lake, but when you look at who's running these companies, who is the CEO or managing director, you can't name the humble servant, behind the scenes. This is true. This is actually, he's completely right. Hideo Kojima is not CEO of Kojima Productions. Todd Howard is not CEO of Bethesda, and so on. That is a fair point. How do we enable Johan to make more Helldivers, and what I bring is a structure beyond that. All right, so hopefully this works okay. I didn't realize there was an entire huge interesting thing here. So if there's any other details, I will add it later, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update and a little bit of an overview. Like I said, I don't think this changes my ideas or ideals in any way. I do think that Shams at least had some positive comments over there, so that's a good thing. But I will say, please, everyone, keep your eyes peeled. Look for any changing business practices on the side of Helldivers. Be vocal. Be loud if necessary. Because you never know when a guy who has been working at Paradox, which has extremely negative things happen in terms of monetization, could try to pull more negative issues like this in the future. But I just want to give you guys a heads up. If you like the video, give it a like, give it a sub, share it with your friends, and thank you guys for enjoying the video. We do this live on Twitch every single night at CapCorgi on Twitch as well. I think, and this is me speculating, I think that Pilestedt was kind of forced into this position a little bit as well because of the entire PSN Sony debacle. Pilestedt was the extremely important voice for the consumer, for all of us gamers, against Sony to try to get the entire situation with the PlayStation Network overturned so we could all play Helldivers again. And I think that was a big reason. Sony, as publisher of Helldivers, has an crazy high level of power. Like, publishers, especially when they're huge, large companies like Sony, they have way too much power. This is something I've covered a lot on this channel. This is something I've discussed many, many times. But this is definitely an issue. And I honestly, like maybe tinfoil hat on and everything, I think he was kind of forced to give up being CEO as well. I don't know. He's playing it off like he's just wants to be the creative director and everything like that. But I think, having been in these types of positions before, having been working consulting in companies where this type of thing has happened before, he could have also been a little bit pushed to make this decision as well. I'm not saying Sony gave him the ultimatum and say, step down or we're gonna shoot you or something, but I think that this might have something to do with it. And you know, a little bit of pressure from Sony probably could have gone a long way. This is pure speculation on my end, but past as precedents, I could definitely see that happening. And Sony loves having their power over, you know, a company that they're being publisher for by having someone like Shams Jorjani who might be more amenable to their position as a game company that wants to think about profits first rather than a creative vision first. Pilestedt is a creative vision guy. He cares about his game. Shams Jorjani, who worked at Paradox for like, you know, 10 years, cares a lot about making money. And he's very good at making money. When he worked at Paradox Interactive, they made a lot of money on all of their microtransactions, on all of their DLCs. You can't buy any Paradox game without spending like an extra like $400 on DLCs. It's ridiculous. It's like absolutely ridiculous. And it's something people have been complaining about with Paradox games for a very, very long time, including me. So I'm just saying, Sony probably loves that Shams Jorjani is the new CEO over Pilestedt. That was the entire last part that I forgot. So I wanted to make sure I added that in there. A little bit of an editor's note, so to speak.